lights up the cigarette, puffs out. There's an event in Italy called the Best of Italy, which is a super Italian event in the sense that I don't think it's regulated. I don't think there's anything official about it, but it's possibly the best car event I've ever attended. And effectively, it's a 26-kilometer closed road hill climb, I suppose you could say. And you're invited along as long as you have an Italian car. And they drop the flag and you go off up this hill climb course or this road course. And it's not really a time attack, but obviously everyone just drives as fast as they can. You get to the top of the hill, you have lunch, you have wine, and you drive back down. And so it happens across 2 days, Saturday and the Sunday. And this one year, a friend of mine, a big car dealer, sort of underselling him a bit, but a guy called Joe Macari was attending. He was one of the sponsors for the event. As I say, it's underselling him because he's an ex-racer, Ferrari restorer, just a big player in the automotive world. And one of his race cars was a Maserati MC12 GT1. So the FIA GT car, in which I'm pretty sure he won the championship in. I'm not entirely sure which year, but either way, he had a lot of success in this car and he's kept hold of it. So he decided to bring it to the Best of Italy event and use it on this hill climb course. And I saw it on the Saturday and he was going up and down the course, not particularly fast, but making noise, and it looked great. And so on the Saturday evening, there's a champagne reception and we're hanging out and we're chatting, and maybe it had 1 or 2 glasses of champagne by this point. I'm a lightweight, so I could have probably had 1 sip and I would have said yes to anything. And Joe says, oh, why don't you come up the course with me tomorrow in the MC12? I'm like, yeah, oh my God, amazing. That'd be great. I head down on Sunday morning to the start line and somebody goes, aren't you getting in the MC12 with Joe? I went, oh yeah, of course. So I run to the start line, see the car, and I tell the team and they go, yeah, absolutely, we're ready. Open the passenger door and there's no passenger seat because it's a race car. So there's the driver's seat and then there's just nothing. And obviously, because it's a race car, there's no soundproofing, it's just bare. So I'm looking like, huh? And there's a little tiny battery fuse box at the bottom of on the floor, and they put a little sort of blanket on it and they go, there, sit on that. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I climb on in and Joe's there and he goes, morning. I said, is this like okay? He goes, yeah, I took somebody up yesterday. Just hold on to the roll cage, we'll be fine. So I'm like, right. So I sit there and I hold on to the roll cage that's by the door. They say, the one thing you do, don't kick that switch. That's the fire extinguisher and that will blow off. So just be careful. I'm like, okay, fine. And I'm sitting on this little box. They said, you'll be fine. Flag drops. And what I assumed was going to be a nice sort of parade lap turns into the most terrifying experience I've ever had in a car, because Joe just rips through like 5 gears off the line. The thing goes, I see tire smoke everywhere. He's going, just hurtling down the road. And I'm thinking, oh, this is kind of fun, but really fast, because that's me still holding onto the roll cage. And I know from having done this event for a couple of years that the sort of first major corner of any sort is a roundabout, a public roundabout, quite tight. And we're hurtling along, as I say, he's bashed through about 5 gears, must be doing like 170 kilometers an hour. And I'm like, I don't think he remembers the roundabout. And so we kind of go around this sort of left-hand bend and he suddenly spots it and he slams on the brakes and just chucks this car right, left, right. And this, as I say, is a FIA GT MC12. This thing is hunkered to the ground. So I come flying off this like battery fuse box. It rips across my back. I later find out there's a massive cut mark. I sort of fly to the right, fly back to the left, and he goes, and we're out of there, straight back on the straight. And I'm thinking, what have I done? And we power on, that's about mile 2, and we've got 12 miles ahead of us. And the road course continues to get bumpy. The only thing stopping me going through the windscreen at any one point is my legs, because I'm having to push up against, I don't even know what, the floor, I suppose, to stop myself just, flying through the front of the car. So every corner it comes to, I'm having to do like a 100-kilo leg press, and I don't do 100-kilo leg presses, so I'm getting more and more nauseous. And I look over at this guy being like, who are you? And he's got a cigarette in his mouth. And he's like fidgeting around, like driving this thing one-handed, doing this. And I'm looking at him, and he's looking for his lighter. And finally he finds it, and he goes, lights up the cigarette, puffs out, and we continue as if we're like qualifying for Le Mans on this 26-kilometer stretch of hill climb. And as I got to the top and having not passed out, realized it was one of the greatest experiences I'm ever going to have in a car, but also the stupidest. And I battled constantly for about a week as to whether to actually upload it, knowing my mum was going to kill me once she saw the footage and realised just how insane it was. But yeah, the scar luckily healed pretty quickly. The video never actually performed that well, but it wasn't really about that. It was one of those moments where... yeah, I will never forget the time I got in the car with Joe Macari and he was lighting his cigarette as we did 150 miles an hour down an Italian road. I think a lot of people know about Enzo Ferrari, or the Ferrari Enzo, often named both ways. The sort of LaFerrari of its day, or at least Ferrari's hypercar, big V12 naturally aspirated engine. Michael Schumacher sort of fabled to be involved in the development, which I think maybe was more of a marketing gimmick than truth, but who knows? And so Maserati had their sort of variant, the MC12, which was the same fundamental underpinnings, I suppose, as the Enzo. I would say maybe rebodied more beautifully, arguably, a sort of better looking car. And Maserati do have an equal heritage, I would say, in racing as Ferrari do. Obviously, in modern years, that's kind of declined. But at least back in the 50s and 60s, they were the force to be reckoned with. At the time, I don't think Ferrari were involved in any of the top GT racing series. Obviously, we had 430 Challengers and 458, etc. But at the time, they weren't entered. And so Maserati came along with the MC12, and it was I think they called it the GT1. I can't remember the actual final moniker that they classed it was, but it was very close to the actual road car. If you looked at a FIA race car version of the MC12 and the road car, they look nearly identical apart from a couple of fins and obviously the missing passenger seat, which I was so hoping to have. But yeah, one of the best sounding race cars of all time, one of the most beautiful, and incredibly rare as a road car. So getting the opportunity to get up close to a road version or a race version is always special. And that day, yeah, as I say, definitely one I won't forget. Joe Macari is an interesting character. I actually bought what I would call my first YouTube car from his dealership. So he has this really impressive space in southwest London. It's kind of super modern glass, 2-floor structure that's always got the most incredible cars in the windows. Everything from 250 California Spiders through to MC12s, LaFerraris, P1s. If you can name it, he's probably got it. And I just started my YouTube channel and I was driving an Audi TTS. Great car, not a hairdresser's car. And I was trying to replace it. And I was going through a lot of different options in my mind. And one of the options was an Alfa Romeo 4C. Funnily enough, as I was kind of going back and forth in my mind, one popped up for sale. Actually, it didn't pop up for sale. It popped up on one of the salesman's Instagram accounts. But I knew he worked at the Joe Macari showroom. So I immediately sent him a direct message saying, look, I'm really interested in this car. Can I come down and have a look at it? And they went, yeah, it's not even been through its preparation yet. We haven't even listed it online, but sure, come down. And that ended up being the car that I purchased and kind of the car that slightly launched my YouTube channel. Because I think before then people were enjoying the content, but it didn't have maybe that much of a unique angle. And at the time I bought my 4C, no one had them. No one had them. It was a very early launch edition car. There was very little content online about it. And suddenly here I was with one of the cars and trying to live my life with it, which was a disaster. So that was kind of like my first experience, with Joe. Not directly necessarily with him all that much at that time, but with the salesman. I did meet Joe because he's very involved. And since then, yeah, I've had a lot of experience hanging out with him. He's a character, is the only way to describe him. Full of life, full of stories, knows very interesting people. Actually sponsored the current Ferrari Formula One driver, Charles Leclerc, through his Formula 2 season. Has always been plugged in with Ferrari and does great work. So I like spending time around him just to be able to hear his stories. But the experience in the MC12 was the only sort of death-defying one that I've had. The rest of the time, it's all been relatively calm. Except, I will say, he did very kindly host a leaving party for me for this Drive the World trip that I'm doing this year. And in his showroom, he hosted my sort of official leaving party. And he turned up whilst the preparations were going on with 2 dogs that were the same size as elephants. Like, I don't know what these dogs were, but he walks in, like, his arms are up here, because he's not the tallest guy, but he's tall enough. These dogs go, apparently they're puppies. They look like they're going to eat everyone there. And so he's walking around sort of terrifying people with these giraffe dogs that apparently are his pets. But that does kind of sum him up, as I say. And I think once preparations were over, he jumped into his GTC 4 Lusso with the 2 dogs in the back and hurtled off. But yeah, he's a great guy.
This month's car stories are sponsored by The Ridge. The Ridge makes a line of wallets and bags that are designed to be minimalist and help us just take with us the things we actually need. So check out the link in the description below for a discount and buy one for yourself, or they make great Christmas presents. And be sure to let them know how thankful you are for their support of VINwiki.